So Chloe,
Yeah.
what scarred you?
Oh god, absolutely nothing. It's the sad reality of who I am as a person. Like, an unfortunate amount of nothing. Like, I was given too much free rein as a child and, like, adolescent and teenager, and, like, it's very much a mama tried situation
Hmm.
happening here and up here. So I was just exposed to too much pop culture that I probably shouldn't have been. So I kind of go at everything that Michael, in prepping for our episode today,
Hmm.
I was trying to discuss with someone what and they were like, "Okay, well, if it's not comics, what movies? Didn't what horror movies did you watch as a kid?" I was like, "Oh, I saw Hellraiser when I was like 8." And they were like, "Hellraiser, that should be it." And I was like, "No. No, because that movie is all about God forbid a MILF gets some motion." You know? So so I'm I'm going in with an open mind. I can only imagine that you have been scarred by a lot.
Oh my god, I'm like a goddamn pincushion. Let's be brutally honest with us. Just to explain, Earthlets, on this episode, we are welcoming Steve and Dave, who are the brains behind
Yeah.
Scarred for Life, which is a fantastic series of books,
So good.
podcast with some amazing guests where they examine the culture of the 70s and 80s and how horrific and scarring it was for an awful lot, and the kind of mental the mental impact of threads of public information films of
Watership Down.
Watership Down, Grange Hill, um, and I'm sure all the way through to people getting blinded in Biker Grove with paintball pellets. So we welcome them onto the podcast because they're 2000 AD fans, and they've talked about it on their podcast. So I thought it'd be a nice Venn diagram of our audiences. Really looking forward to that. This is In Orbit every Wednesday, athletes.
Get 2000 AD now. Get.
Borag Thung athletes, and welcome to In Orbit every Wednesday. We are back from our sojourn to Thought Bubble, and I'm your host as always, Molch-R. This is your co-host Chloe. We are joined on this episode by two guests this time. From I was about to say the word rival, but you're not really a rival. Podcast friends. Let's put it that way. We are joined by Steve and Dave from the Scar for Life podcast. Welcome, guys, to the thrillcast in Orbit every Wednesday.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here. I've got to say, I don't do the podcast. I haven't done it since February. I walked away to get back to the books.
That's how long it's been since.
Yeah. I did series 1 and 2, but yeah, back on the next Scar for Life book project.
We've actually recorded more episodes now without Steve than with Steve. So it's
Dave, you always say this. I'd have lost the plot months ago.
Basically, we are a podcasting machine. We're still recording, and we've already got enough podcasts to get us through till next March. One
Good
a week
God.
till next March.
I'd be in a rubber room by now.
Yeah, so we've got loads of fantastic guests coming up, like big name stars. It's going to be great. So,
see, in one fell swoop, you've shown us up for the amateurs that we are. Because number one, I hadn't gotten to the point where Steve has stopped being on the podcast, and number two, Chloe and I record this every week.
Yeah, I was about to say, the idea of having like 4 or 5 months in advance, that's a dream within a dream for Mike and I. Okay.
It's easy to do. All you need is somebody with a whip just goading you on to keep going and recording. Just keep doing it. And a guy playing the drums in the background to just keep you the rhythm of the podcasting. It's absolutely fine. No problem at all.
I mean, we did a two for a while back where we're like, we need to. I think I was on holiday or something like that, so we recorded 2 episodes in one go, and I needed about a 2-day break from anything to recover. Like
Yeah.
it is a. I think I think an awful lot of people just think, and an awful lot of podcasts are like that. They just hit record and just start talking, and actually, that's really hard, and just to sustain it. I mean, you guys have a different guest. But you know what? Let's talk about the podcast with or without Steve.
Okay.
Explain to us what the mission statement of the Scarred for Life podcast is.
Well, basically, what we do is we invite on a selected, very elite group of guests to and ask them what were the 3 things that scared them, terrified them, troubled their childhood years. And every week, people come along and they say, "Well, I was scared by I don't know, the flumps, or or Nosy Bonk, or 2000 AD." So people will. We actually have had a 2000 AD scar. Lizzie Hopley picked the judge getting pickled by Cal.
Oh, that's a good one.
As one of her scars. Yeah, so they come along and they'll say, "This is what we're scared of," and we just chat about that and their careers, and a lot of fun is had by all. But maybe not the audience, we'll see.
I mean, you've had some incredible guests on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, just the immediate ones that spring to mind are Michael Sheen, Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright is up in the air. We haven't actually managed to get him to talk back to us yet, but we will.
Really?
We'll get him in the end.
Right.
Snag him eventually.
Yes, we're very determined.
You had Peter Serafinowicz.
We did. We had Peter Serafinowicz on, and he was amazing. It was essentially a stream of consciousness for an hour. It was phenomenal.
So what? I mean, I know that there are books. There's I've got one downstairs. I think. Is that how this project began? That you were doing the Scarred for Life books?
Yeah, basically that's the core. It's all about the books. So at least for me, it started in 2014 with me and Dave starting the books. Like, for me, the podcast was kind of a fun side project, but I haven't got the temperament, so it's all about the book projects, and we do live shows around the country, all kind of North and Midlands. Yeah. And well, basically they're these enormous War and Peace sized tomes, 3 of them. First one's all about the 1970s, growing up in Britain with, I mean, it was bizarre in hindsight, the darkest, weirdest, most shocking pop culture, not just television. We cover films, books, comics, sweets, crisps, public information films, board games, everything. The paranormal boom of the entire era. Volume 2 is all about the television of the 1980s, because we realised the 80s was such a bizarre decade. We had to split what would have been the second book into 2. So the second book is films, huge comic book section that I wrote with loads of love given to 2000 AD and Warrior, all of the great British comics at the time. So yeah, it kind of ballooned from there. This is the thing, Dave, we always talk about this, don't we? I'm the eternal optimist. And I remember in 2017, March 2017, me and Dave are WhatsApping. I'm ready to press send on the upload to print Volume 1, Scarred for Life Volume 1. And I remember messaging Dave and saying, if we manage to sell 200 copies in my lifetime, I can go to my grave a happy man. Because you're even more optimistic than me.
I said, let's be dreamers. Let's be dreamers. Let's say 1,000 copies. Let's sell 1,000 copies over the course of our lifetimes, and that'd be amazing. We'd have really impact. We are currently edging close to 30,000 copies sold.
Good God.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. But it's because it's captured such a thing in Generation X, mainly. You don't have to be into comics. You don't have to be into sci-fi or horror. You just had to have grown up with this stuff. You will latch onto something in one of our books. You'll recognize it.
Yeah, I think
this is something eternally relatable for everybody.
I was about to say that is the thing we get told quite a lot. We get approached by people, on social media or even in the flesh, and they'll say, "I thought I was the only one who was freaked out by this. I thought I was sitting there on my own, scared by Worzel Gummidge. I thought I was the only person who was afraid of this, and it turns out you're not. There's a whole community of us, and we're prepared to offer you some counselling on that.
I think it's very important that we ask the question here, Chloe. Do you know what Worzel Gummidge was?
No.
Right.
Ooh.
Don't find out. Do not find out. Trust me on that.
Do it.
Oh,
Do it.
I have to now.
I have never forgotten this because in one episode, Chloe, you said that Silo 120 Days of Sodom was one of your comfort films. You can handle Worzel Gummidge. Although at the show in Liverpool, we put a picture from Worzel Gummidge up on the screen, and a woman in the front row hid her face. She couldn't look at it. We had to let her know when the picture had gone.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Chloe is hurriedly Googling Worzel Gummidge now.
Oh wow, what in the fuck is that?
It's a children's show. It's a children's show about a scarecrow that comes to life, and it can wrench its own head off and replace it with other heads when it needs to be handsome or intelligent. And they're all horrible.
Oh my God, no wonder that whole island is the way that it is.
Yeah.
Like,
This explains the entirety of British history, right there.
Television.
This is one of the things about the whole project is this is an oddly British artifact. This is an oddly British experience. That I guess if you catch certain aspects of it, everyone knows Doctor Who and various bits and bobs, but it just seems to have been this cultural thing where the stuff we were expecting now in our little bubble, in our bubble of 3 or 4 channels of TV, and a limited amount of radio, choice, and the books we would have access to through school libraries and the local library and things like that. It seems to have created the whole kind of cultural mix of the time. It's just odd. It's just odd, isn't it?
It is. I did a tweet quite a while ago now. I did a tweet where I talked about a book of monsters from films by a guy called Dennis Gifford. And Mark Gatiss replied to the tweet and said, "Are you me?" Because we all have exactly the same touchstones. They all have exactly the same cultural references.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, 3-4 channels. So we all watched the same stuff at night. We all went to school the next day and talked about the stuff we'd watched the previous night. We all had people say to us, "Do you remember when his head came off?" And you go, "I do now." So we all had this mythologizing of our popular culture as well. So it was a shared experience, which I think, sadly, is now gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's
completely
less of a
fragmented.
monoculture.
Yeah, I miss
That's
it.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about how for you two 2000 AD fits into this, because there's a reason that there's these merging of these two podcasts here. What scarred you for life about 2000 AD?
Oh, well, for me, this is the thing. 2000 AD. Right. I was a kid that grew up obsessed with comics, science fiction, horror, video games, board games, role-playing games. I was the uber nerd, but also into sports, weirdly. Love playing football, I know. But above it all, 2000 AD is my favourite thing ever. Like, I absolutely adore it. And I remember my dad told me about it because it was on the radio that a new comic was coming out that would have Dan Dare returning, and he remembered Dan Dare when he was younger. So I got excited, and I remember him buying me Prog 1, and I swear to God, it's not one of those in hindsight things. It blew my mind because obviously I was reading Marvel and DC comics from the newsagents, Whoopi and Dandy and Beano and Battle, but I had never read anything quite like 2000 AD that week. It blew me away, and it stayed with me my entire life, except for that weird wobble in the 90s where it seemed like everyone drifted away for a year and came back. But my God, this is the thing. I think it's quite an early thing where Flesh and Chaco were ripping people's heads off and dinosaurs tearing people to bits. But I can honestly say the first, what I would call scarred for life experience, was Christmas Day 1977, when I got the first 2000 AD annual, which is fucking terrifying. It's like they got 2 or 3 Judge Dredd strips specially commissioned and then stuff out of a file that had nothing to do with 2000 AD. But there's a Death Bugs strip at the back where a dog gets torn to bits by these kind of flying, flesh-eating beetles. There's a Future Shock type thing where there's these hunters on an alien planet that knife this poor humanoid alien where it's got blood pouring out of its noses at the end. There's a Future Shock about a guy, I want to say he's got cancer or something, so he's kind of going around the world yacht trip. Can't remember the ins and outs. It's been years since I read it, but he comes back just in time, back to New York, just in time for World War III. And the Statue of Liberty's head flies off. Mushroom cloud everywhere. This annual scared the shit out of me. It's fabulous. And it's always had that darkness. In volume 1, I wrote about 2000 AD in the 70s, the first 3 years. It's stumbling, it's finding its feet, but it's got that genius. And in volume 3, I talk about the whole of the 80s. I write about the golden period. But within that, you've got Strontium Dog talking about racism. You've got Nemesis teaching me about racism. You've got that period, what they call the Judge Silver period of Dread, where he is an unrepentant bastard, the democracy storyline. So it's kind of growing up, obviously, with me. And I'm becoming more and more aware about the political side and the kind of racism and sexism, what it's teaching me as a teenager, which is just amazing. It's been such a formative thing. And this is the thing, I think it's safe to say, you, Dave, you've always loved 2000 AD, haven't you?
I have. I do feel like a bit of a fraud being on this, because I was there right at the start, and I kind of dropped out towards the mid 80s, and I'm just rediscovering all the stories I missed, collecting the Ultimate Collections and But I think the thing that genuinely scarred me for life was those bloody Mac 1 stickers on it on issue 2 with the really strong glue that nearly ripped my skin off. I think that was a genuine scar.
My mum really wrote a letter to Tharg, It wouldn't come off. It was taking my eyelid off. I stupidly put a sticker on my eye.
Yeah. But I do actually have a 2000 AD claim to fame. I was one of the winners of that Land Cruiser competition with Judge Dredd.
Wow.
I was.
Yeah.
I did.
Have you ever told me that, Dave?
Have I never told you that? I won the Land Cruiser. I won the little model, and I got the letter from Tharg.
I've known this man for 30 years.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I was one of the winners of that competition. Yeah, absolutely was. I got my little Land Cruiser. I don't think I've got it anymore, but
Wow.
I got a typed letter from Tharg, and the whole thing came in a used copier paper box.
That's so British. I love it. Well, he did eat styrofoam cups, so
Yeah, I got it. I got this. It came through the post. This copier paper, like 400 sheets of copier paper, not in it anymore, obviously. Just a Land Cruiser and a little typed note from Tharg, which I don't think. I think he might have used an auto pen. I don't think he signed it himself, to be honest.
Well, I mean, that does kind of make you 2000 AD fan royalty.
Does it?
Really?
Okay.
Seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
Those early free gifts, the competition prizes. I think we bought out a T-shirt, and it was actually Chris Weston had done an incredible copy of the Brian Bolland original, and Brian was fine with us putting this on a T-shirt, and Chris was fine as well. And they did 100 of them in like 1979 or 1980 or something like that, and these were like hen's teeth. So it's actually quite nice to be able to allow people. And quite a few people went, "I've been coveting one of those for 40 years."
wow.
Man.
This is fantastic. Because that Land Cruiser, the fact it was a toy that was put into the comic strip. I mean, this predates Transformers and all the the Marvel UK toy tie-in comics and everything. So that's stunning, amazing. You don't need to feel a fraud. You want a Land Cruiser for God's
I
sake.
did, yeah.
Fraud now. Did you know how badly I wanted one of those Land Cruisers, Dave?
Well, it ended up down the tip. I can tell you where the tip is. You want to go down with the metal detector and try and find it.
No.
The rivalry isn't between podcasts; it's in the house.
I don't even remember what I did to win the competition. To be honest, was it decoding something, or was it something like it definitely would have been
70s. It probably was, yeah.
It wouldn't have been artwork because I can't draw for toffee, so it's just
I mean, that never stopped an awful lot of the people who had their artwork published in 2008. Really honest with you. I thought I've been very lucky in previous episodes where I've just Googled something on air and it's immediately come up. But no, that's
okay. So I did something mysterious and won a Land Cruiser. That's all. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Land Raider. There we go. With the Killdozer. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Yeah, I think I might have done it might have been a code or something. I think it might have been a code.
That does sound the kind of thing that would have happened.
Yeah, I think so.
In 1978.
Yeah,
A lot of spy stuff going on in kids' comics, wasn't there?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because I had my Warlord badge as well. Obviously, I used to get Warlord, and I had the Warlord badge. I think that was a lot of decoding stuff as well. So
yeah.
So Dave, you're not wrong. How to enter? Here are 4 sets of numbers, each of which, as you see, represents the name of a story in 2000 AD. Mm-hmm. All you have to do this week is to keep this page and place an order for next week's issue when it will all be explained. And then there's I'll put this up on the screen when
you're gonna have to
when I edit this. But yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Dave is a maths tutor by trade and a mathematician.
Mm-hmm. So numbers, codes. It was my time to shine. To be honest,
The thing is, by the sounds of it, it wasn't necessarily when you were scarred for life. This is your origin story. This is like your maths origin story, decoding.
Yeah, I think if I was going to pick something that actually did scar me from 2000 AD, it would be that Flesh. I think the bit where the spiders come in when all the guys are sleeping. That bit, or the bit where the dinosaur and the people get mixed up, and the dinosaur's got 3 human heads on it, and just that kind of thing. I think because I used to love Judge Dredd and Flesh, and I also loved Invasion as well, because I think we all knew that was possible, because obviously the nuclear warfare at the time, you thought, because the Vulcans are basically the Russians, aren't they? So I think that was very much, this could happen. So I think that was a pretty chilling experience as well.
What was the thing? The Apocalypse War?
Yeah, the Apocalypse. Yeah.
When I was 11, in our 3rd book, the last third, there's a book within a book about nuclear war pop culture specifically, and I wrote a big piece about the Apocalypse War when I was 11. This is the thing. I'm used to Marvel and DC at this point, and comics in general, doing these earth-shattering stories, and 3 weeks later you kind of go, everything's back to normal. Yeah. Oh, well. So at the end of Blockmania, there's hundreds of nuclear missiles about to rain down on Megacity 1. And I remember first couple of episodes thinking, I wonder how they're going to get out of this one. And I think it's like episode 3 or 4 where half of Megacity 1 is just wiped off the face of the earth. And I still remember Quarry Bank Comprehensive. No, it would have been Dovedale, my junior school, the playground chatter amongst me and my mates. And it never went back to normal. It's never gone away, which is incredible. But that was at the start of that period where the Cold War really kicked in. And by about 1983, 84, like the same day, we're kind of thinking there will be a nuclear war. Yeah. What happened to Megacity 1 is going to happen. So it was that was quite a big thing as well.
Do you know the bit that got me?
Kind of fun. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No,
after you.
It's this funny thing with 2000 AD, where because there was no reset, there's never been like the hard reset. Everything that's happening is going to have echoes for decades afterwards. Things like the apocalypse were so bizarre because you were like, it was people really entrusting like 11-year-olds to process what
Yeah,
was happening. It's like, and it's unique, but it's really kind of cool, and also obviously has ended up scarring a lot of people from a young age. But it's trusting your audience. Why don't we get that anymore? You know?
absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know the bit that got me in the Apocalypse War? It's the bit where the judges execute the citizens. Because there's a scene in, if you ever watched Peter Watkins' 1965 drama The War Game, there's a scene in that where they're triaging patients after the nuclear bomb has dropped, and they're shooting the ones that can't be helped. That's a film that got banned for like 25, 30 years in the UK. But here it is, reenacting the same sort of scene in Judge Dredd for kids in a comic. They're shooting people because they can't do anything to help them. It's, so... Yeah.
Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and there was always so much weird synchronicity going on because I wrote about how Reagan's ash heap of history speech, when he dialed up the rhetoric against the Soviet Union, I think he made that speech on a Thursday, and then the following Saturday was when Dredd nuked East Meg 1.
No way.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Genuinely insane. Like, and there's lots of occasions like that. It's like Kids Rule OK in action. That started well, there you go, perfect. Thank you for your business. For those who are listening rather than watching, Steve has a rather fetching T-shirt with the front cover of the Kids Rule OK issue on. But that issue came out. The story started the Saturday after the Notting Hill Carnival disorder in 1976. Literally days later, and there's a story in this, and so. To say a lot of the writers had their finger on the pulse. No, it was more than that. They were goddamn psychic. Is what they were. Just absolutely stunning.
I mean, even things like Robo Hunter, with what we would now understand as a vape that just happened to talk in a Mexican accent, and the smokatorium in Judge Dredd. When I was like 7, the idea of smoking being banned was insane. But you kind of look back at all these things and go, my God, he was so prescient. Really did know what was going on.
I mean, it is like it is kind of nice having I don't know. I feel like with sci-fi there are so many people in comics across all publishers and film and all these things that, particularly with sci-fi, are always trying to predict what the future is going to look like. And I feel like 2000 AD is the only one that's actually kind of nailed it, like on a consistent basis. I know we've waxed on probably for an accumulative hours on this podcast about John Wagner being like the godfather of like, predictive powers, but it was kind of everybody during that period. Like, so much of that has actually started happening at some point or another.
Yeah, there's a few things I've put on. Something will happen in the news, and I will post on Twitter and Blue Sky, whatever, a 2000 AD panel that predicted that, or is so perfect for that news item or that development that I do start thinking. And people do reference The Simpsons having that kind of time travel thing, but it's always 2000 AD for me.
I think there's a reason for that. I think a lot of science fictions, but Star Trek, that kind of thing is utopian, and 2000 AD is dystopian, and we are clearly heading towards dystopia, not utopia at this point. So they're going to get it more right than wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a perfect point. You look when Star Trek started, and it was the 60s. It was post-war. There was lots of hope about the future. You got the American space program, etc. The white hot flame of technology was going to solve all of our problems. And then by the 70s, no, the problem is humanity. It's got sod all to do with technology. We're the problem. I mean, certainly by 75, 76, 77. You're in America you've got stagflation. In Britain you've got declinism. There's a wonderful quote from When the Lights Went Out, and the author's name I've completely forgotten, unfortunately, but it's very good. Fantastic kind of revisionist history of the 70s that looks at what it was really like. And it's just this government minister to, I think, Wilson's government, and someone says to him, what are you up to? And he went, well, what are you doing at the moment? He said, well, like everybody else, I'm waiting for the end.
Blimey.
To be in this moment when actually at the time Britain was Britain has never been more equal than it was in the 70s. Like the gap between the rich and the poor was at its absolute narrowest. Generations are growing up with more money and more ease and leisure than any generation before them. But all these big things were happening above them, where it kind of didn't matter. So I once asked my dad, what was it like to live through the Cuban Missile Crisis? And he went, well, what was it like to live through the 80s, Mike? Because you were there. I didn't pay any attention to it. And of course you didn't, because you've got to you've got to get on with your life, But as your whole project explains, you carry these scars with you, even if you don't necessarily pay attention to them at the time.
Yeah, this is the thing. We talk about this as well, don't we, Dave? The first book about the 1970s is kind of told from the perspective of us as children. So a lot of the scary things are like books about ghosts and monsters and the supernatural. And the 80s has got unemployment and nuclear war, rabies, AIDS, heroin. Heroin was a huge social hysteria at the time. So it's when shit gets real. And this is one thing we found ourselves almost accidentally doing, wasn't it, Dave? We started off wanting to write books. We would look at different subjects. And very early on, we realized we're kind of telling a social history of the 1970s and 80s through pop culture. I don't know if, Chloe, are you familiar with some of the sitcoms we had in the 70s? Love Thy Neighbor? Or
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, like blatantly racist, sexist.
Yes.
Yeah. So every time there's a clip show in Britain, they will show clips from Love Thy Neighbor and on the buses and go, isn't that awful? And one thing we wanted to do was go, it was fucking dreadful. But I remember everyone I knew would watch those sitcoms. My mum would roar with laughter. I never heard her say a single racist word in her life. So we wanted to go start with, yes, it's awful. Why was this getting 18 million viewers every week?
Yeah.
And this is the thing, as you said about the reality of the 70s, Mike. We have this idea that everyone was in on the casual racism. Actually, from the word go, there was a pushback against Love Thy Neighbor. And when ITV got a new head of comedy, the first thing he did was, I want that filth off my screen. Because people were quite progressive back then. There was a pushback, as there is always.
The most obvious example, the most egregious example was Curry and Chips, the Spike Milligan thing that got pulled after, I think it was 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That was, and bear in mind, I mean, Chloe, I don't know if you like, Spike Milligan was a national treasure in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like, he was a comedy god, and this was going to be like one of his next big thing, and they pulled it after 3 episodes. Like, that's how bad it was that it got taken off the air. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
I think
I love those little hubs of because that's kind of my jam is the 70s and 80s pop culture is kind of what I've entrenched myself in for one reason or another. And it's this weird little period where there are so many things that by today's standards and kind of by that standard are so problematic. And that almost makes me more interested in it, because it's like, okay, but this is something that did have a moment to flourish. How did that happen? And like, how do you look at it through that lens of when it existed? And because it's almost unfair to judge those things by a standard of right now. You can't.
Yeah.
It's this thing that, but you can look at it right now through that lens, and it gives it like a whole, like, it draws the history out more, even when it was just a short-lived little thing.
I think
Yeah.
the history of culture is a progressive thing, isn't it? I mean, if you look back at even recent things, Little Britain absolutely
Yeah.
would not be made now. It's
Oh.
absolutely shocking, the things they did in Little Britain. Um, but going back to those 70s comedies, the writers thought they were being progressive. They just weren't good enough writers to maybe communicate that well enough. And there's another problem. And it's a problem I actually asked Al Murray about on the podcast. Al Murray, if you don't know, does a pub landlord. It's a sort of racist figure that's supposed to be serving at a bar, talking to the audience as he serves the drinks. And I said to him, how difficult is it to portray a racist character as a parody and not have racists agree with you? It's a very difficult line to
Good
walk,
question.
and I would say that comedies failed to walk that line because
Mm.
if you say something racist and you're for example, Alf Garnett. Alf Garnett is a racist character. Warren Mitchell was Jewish. He was not racist at all, and his goal was to parody the sort of people who would say stuff like that. But you'd get people agreeing with Alf Garnett. You'd get people say, "Oh, you can't believe it." Finally, somebody's had the courage to say that. You know, so it's too difficult a line to walk. I think in parody, you can't parody racism because racists don't see the parody,
Yeah.
and I think that's the
Yeah.
difficulty with it.
This is the thing, Dave. You have Your Wars on Facebook. Dave runs the Facebook page, which is just exploding. You were telling me how many followers it was the other week. I do Twitter, Insta, Blue Sky. And this is the thing, me and Dave, as people, and certainly writing these books and on the podcast with Dave, we are massively anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-everything horrible. We are. I welcome diversity. I am what right-wing people call woke as fuck, and I'm proud of it. But we attract racists who don't see. They just see a nostalgia thing and think, when life was better. A clip from the Black and White Minstrel Show when you could do this stuff. And you're like, no.
It doesn't even have to be that. I did a post about Charlie Says, which is a series of public information films starring a cat voiced by Kenny Everett, who warns the little boy he's with of the dangers of what's going on. And I did one about the paedophile in the park, and some of the answers to that were massively racist.
What?
Oh no, that's doubling down.
Yes, no, saying, so the migrants from the local hostel have come into the park. Things like anyway, terrible things, terrible thing.
God.
So I introduced this thing where basically I donate £20 a month now to a charity of a person's choosing if they alert me to any problematic posts that we get, because I can't keep an eye on
That's nice.
every single post. I've done it for 3 months now. It's pretty much stamped it out.
That's really nice.
Because
That's brilliant.
yeah, it's just so somebody says, "Oh, check this one out," and then in a month I go to them and say, "Look, what's your favourite charity? I'll donate 20 quid to it." So we've donated to lifeboats because that really pisses off racists. A cat charity because a lady wanted like cats, and last month was shelter to support the homeless over Christmas. But the point being, it's worked. It's not responding in kind. It's responding with kindness. And it worked because people are now more motivated to tell me if somebody's being a racist, being a dickhead. So I get there and I block them immediately. Not debating with people. Blocked. No. Go away. Don't want you here. And that's the end of it. And it's worked. So there you go.
I mean, that's wonderful. One of the interesting touchstones with comics is Battle, Picture Weekly, and Darky's Mob.
Yeah.
Which now I had a distant uncle who was part of the Forgotten Army in Burma, and lovely chap, but virulently racist about the Japanese because he had this experience during the war. So he wouldn't even, like, if there was a Japanese TV in the house, he would turn away from it and not watch it. And looking at things like Darky's Mob now, and even some of the things in things like Invasion, which was going out of it in 2018, which was going out of its way not to be about the Russians, still does dabble a little bit in this kind of racial stereotyping. And so, second,
oh, just a pinch. I'm saying
oh yeah,
just dabbling.
But it's what's so fascinating about it. Things like that are often dealing in the cultural stereotypes of the past in order to indicate a certain something to the cultural moment. And as you say, Dave, sometimes candidly, but it's difficult when analyzing any kind of culture to not allow it to slip into the adulation of the past or the misremembering of the past or the weaponization of the past. So yeah, 70s and 80s, fascinating culturally and politically and socially. But so often the image that people want to spin of that is that it was a time when people were allowed to be arseholes.
I think,
Yeah, absolute bollocks.
There were obviously in the 70s, 80s, a lot of people still around who remembered the war years. So can I give you an example of that? My dad worked as a mechanic in a Vauxhall's garage, Vauxhall's General Motors, also connected to Opel in Germany. And this bluff old cove came in, sort of handlebar moustache, looked at the car my dad was working on, and said, "So I say, where's this made?" And I said, "Oh, this one's made in Germany." And the guy said, "I spent 5 years bumming the bastards. I'm not buying their cars," and walked straight out.
It's the thing I remember. Do you know the sitcom Dad's Army, Chloe?
Mm-mm.
No, basically it was a beautifully written, beautifully acted. It's a legendary British sitcom from the 70s, and it's about our home guard, which was basically
Writing this down.
the idea. If we were invaded by Germany, then you'd have like butchers and bankers and just the general public were trained up as the army to defend us. And it is about these kind of just normal people, and the kind of superior officer is just like, he's a local banker or something with delusions of grandeur.
He's the bank manager, yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of every episode, it ends with each cast member and titles in the woods, kind of on maneuver, with their name appearing below them. But then an air raid siren goes off. I remember when I was a kid, at that point, my mum would go, "Oh yeah, turn over the channel for us. They see what's on ITV every single week." And it was only when I was in my 30s, talking to my dad, I realised she had PTSD from that air raid sign, and she couldn't bear to hear it. So I was the remote control. I know. So there's lingering over everything. And as you said, Mike, people have this Mandela memory that licensed to be horrible in the 70s and 80s. It's nonsense. It's absolute crap. I think me and Dave have always agreed with this. I wouldn't swap the era I grew up. I love the fact that I grew up in the 70s and 80s because of the things I got to consume, the music, the comics, the TV shows. I wouldn't want to go back, ever. I would hate to live there again.
Yeah, I think the thing we say is, when you look at the 80s, what's your vision of the 80s? It's neon, it's Magnum, PI and his Ferrari. That wasn't our 80s. Our 80s was bleak. It was unemployment. It was, I live near Camberlades, which is a shipyard on the Mersey, which is on the wrong side of the country, wrong side of history. There was no work coming in. Everybody was unemployed. We'd go down to the tip, the garbage dump on a Sunday with my dad, and there'd be people there hovering over you trying to see what they could salvage from what you were throwing away because they had nothing. That's the 80s I had. That's my experience of it. And going back to the war again, just for a second, I mean, you can still see signs of the war in Britain. Just by me, there are pillboxes where machine gun posts would have been if the Germans had invaded. You can still see them. There were still bomb sites. There was still stuff not being cleared since it was destroyed during the war. Directly over the road from me, there's a house Every house is the same. It's all designed the same on this road. So they all say so. It's kind of a mirror image thing where the house is the same. There's one house that's completely different, and everybody calls that the new house, even though it's been there for as long as I remember. Because sometime during 1941, a German bomber flew over, dumped its bombs, and the house was gone. So it's still there, isn't it? But it was there in our childhoods. Our childhoods there were bomb sites. There were the houses that had been destroyed. They'd cleared the land. It was just wasteland because nothing had been there since 1940s when it was destroyed. Crazy time to grow up in, mate.
Poor Chloe's getting just sat there. Oh my god!
Look, I think I told you this while I was over in the UK. I'm like, there's so much history still there, and still so incredibly present, and that people do live with every single day, just constantly, even in small ways, reminded of this history. In America, we just bulldoze it and put a car park down. We have such a different connection, and honestly, a much worse case of hubris when it comes to our history.
I think
instead of like almost a monosphere of trauma that seems to exist in Britain.
I think I think in our country, there's definitely you can literally go, for example, go to Chester, and the stuff that's been there for 1,500 years. The Romans.
I was in Chester. My girlfriend lives near Chester. We were there on Saturday. There was a newsagent we passed, and that newsagent, in some form or other, has been there since 1790, which is mind-blowing.
One of my favorite things when I first went to San Diego for Comic-Con, I was walking around and there's a sign on this wooden house in the middle of the gas lamp, which is the historic part of San Diego, and it says the oldest house in San Diego,
and it was like 1914.
I mean, it's 20th century, and I'm like, the house I was living in at the time was twice the age of that, and not only that, but when you actually looked into it, they had picked it up from somewhere else and moved it to the gas lamp, so it wasn't even where it originally was.
I saw a reply. No offense to any Americans, by the way, but I saw a reply to somebody when an American had said something, and this guy said, "My local pub is older than your entire country."
Yeah.
Kind of take it for granted sometimes, but
it's literally you can see stuff from 1,000 years ago. You can see, it's crazy. Talking about going back to what you said about bulldozing, I did it. I went to LA. 2008, 2009, something like that. And we did a sort of houses tour, and half of them were being half these historic houses that you had, like literally the homes of like famous stars of the past.
Yeah,
basically, we were just being bulldozed to put in some modern monstrosity.
But they need remodeling.
Yeah, remodeling.
They
just
have
flattened
to be
it.
Up and up.
It's a sort of East Wing of the White House type remodeling I saw. So it's just, it's just.
Do you know what? It's just really interesting. Going back to 2000 AD, you make me realize something because I grew up in the 70s as a kid in single figures. You're absolutely right, Dave, Mike, Chloe, that we were surrounded, loomed over by the war and grey and bomb sites. And most science fiction that I was reading, the comics, was kind of shiny futures. And I think I'm realizing maybe one of the reasons 2000 AD blew my 6-year-old mind, it was a shiny future where everything was still fucking horrible. And that must have resonated with me as a kid, even subconsciously.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why I'll get shouted at in the comments by Dan Dare fans, but there's a reason Dan Dare got cancelled in the early 70s is because you couldn't look at Britain in the 70s and talk about a shining future of spaceships. By that point, our own space program was completely dead. Whereas Americans had JFK, they had the space program, they had the Apollo landings. So the comics, once the comics start coming in, so you had Warlord, which was the DC Thompson comic, and then you had Battle, and then you had Action, and then you had 2000 AD. These were actually all comics that in feeling, if not necessarily in content, probably felt more honest in that moment than Dan Dare Pilot of the Future, where it's trucks away, whatever his mate was called.
Digby.
Oh, Digby. There we go. Chocks away, Digby. And why Darky's Mob? Why One Eye Jack? Why Major Easy rather than say Biggles were the characters of the time? Because it was a completely different ethos. I do want to round it out because we're coming up to the hour, but what I would like from each of you is the what is your 2000 AD scarring moment? What is that one? And I mean, Steve and Dave, you already kind of mentioned the Apocalypse War and the execution of things like that. But Chloe's a more recent convert and a lot younger.
Yeah. So I was really trying to think about this because as I've explained I think I even messaged you about this. I was like, unfortunately, I'm just enough of like a degenerate gremlin and kind of have been, I think, deep in my bones since I was a kid that like I don't think anything truly scarred me as a kid. I think it just created whatever's happening here. Like but let's see, I got into 2000 AD when I was a teenager in the early 2000s, and I was lucky enough to get to experience Cradle Grave, which I don't know if that necessarily scarred me because anything to do with body horror just kind of makes me go but like it was the concept of body horror being representative of like what I understood in America as like urban blight and being fed on as a lower class individual and all of these things and that and this repetitive cycle that you continue in when you are stuck in that place. And like that fucked with me really hard when I can't even remember how old I was when that came out, but like I kind of sat with that for a while in a way that like didn't make me like grossed out uncomfortable, but made me like uncomfortable in my skin, in my environment sort of thing, like kind of gave me a different perspective, which is a little jarring, so that's probably my pick.
Do you want me to go?
That's a good one.
Yeah, go on, Dave.
Okay, my scar's a more general one. My scar is essentially the things that really got to me were the fact that they kept killing the characters I liked.
2008 has no fear about that.
So
you must have just hated comics in general.
Well, well, no, you never saw Dennis the Menace take a bullet to the head, did you? It's just,
Who was your favourite who got killed then, Dave?
Well, okay, so I think it started out. I mean, the Harlem Heroes, especially the second thing, is brutal. The Inferno is brutal, isn't it?
That's a good one.
Yeah, with all the graves at the end, it's just absolutely terrible.
Remember when you killed the pages censored because I think it was genuinely too violent to show.
Yeah, that Mac one back in the day. Obviously, I mean, I know people don't have a high opinion of that script, but I definitely remember him dying at the end of the sort of the Intel computer counting down his life. It was grim.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think Ace Truck in at the end where he's tricked into committing suicide. It's just
like flying to the sun.
Yeah, So then I'm going, I really like this character. Oh my god. So that's my eternal scar, the fact that they killed everybody I loved.
Do you know what my number one scar was as a kid? This is the thing, I've talked about that 2000 AD annual, but the first Judge Dredd annual is full of horror as well. There's zombies, there's shock with that really shocking final image with the pointy neck thing. But the thing that really upset me as a kid was one of the Judge Dredd strips from that called Compulsory Purchase, where they pick a poor, unsuspecting citizen and basically say, we're going to have to take your lungs or something, citizen, because we need to give it to someone who's like an ambassador, someone who's more high up in the elite status than you. And he basically just loses the plot and goes on the run. And Dredd chases him down. He falls off a high building or something and splats on the Megway. And the last image is him, kind of like he's a janitor at the hospital, looking like a human skeleton with metal parts in. That disturbed me, but the idea that the state could just decide to take my heart one day without my say-so just freaked me out when I was 10.
Oh, give it a year.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah. I think I think probably I knew something was afoot when I've said it before. I didn't start reading 2000 AD until the beginning of the 90s, but I'd been reading all of the classics in the Best of 2000 AD monthly, which was an incredible way to catch up on all the classics. And I realized something was afoot at the end of Robo Hunter Verdus. When it's he's on the robot planet and they're all at war and everything, and Sam Slade kills them all.
Oh yeah.
He's been fighting on one side, like the British side, for want of a better phrase, and they're losing quite badly to what is clearly the kind of Soviet/American kind of monolithic side that has all the big weapons. And then the result at the end is just to set off an electromagnetic bomb, and it fries that every single robot on that planet dies, apart from the steam powered one. And that should have tipped me off. But really, it's Wolf Sternhammer dying.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And that's the first time. I mean, I'd had some incidences with because the Transformers comic, which was the other one I read, that had some should not have been put in front of children moments quite early on.
Yeah.
Wolf Sternhammer dying, and the whole Rage storyline where Johnny pursues the Max Bubba gang and then executes each and every single one of them in cold blood. And I mean, it's on the wall just there. That final, "Why are you doing this, Alpha? Because I hate you." I was what, 11 years old when I understood the nature of revenge.
This is why we look
most answer.
Yeah. But I'm going to bring it up because we could keep going for hours, to be honest with you, guys. And I just want to say what an absolute pleasure it has been to have you on the show, because this has been fantastic.
It really has. This was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been an honor, real honor. Loved it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if you haven't listened to the podcast, Dave's podcast, Sans Stee. I clearly need to catch up on episodes. Then please do go along to the Scout for Life podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. And like I said, some incredible guests on there. So well done to the two of you. And also on the books. It's a worthy project.
Thank you.
Let's put it that way.
Oh, thank you.
So we shall be back in 7 days' time, Earthlets. Hopefully for something slightly less traumatic than this. I didn't even get on to talking about the 1975. So this even preceded me. The 1975 public information film about rugs on polished floors and how it's left me with a lifelong phobia of rugs.
The
Oh my
mantra.
God, how am I not getting to hear that story? You tempted me with it on WhatsApp the other day, and now I don't get to fucking hear it. Oh my God.
Well, it's basically just the dangers of polishing your lino. Basically, just don't polish your lino. You're absolutely fine.
Yeah, except that we remodeled our house, and all the floors apart from the stairs are like laminate flooring.
Oh, careful.
And when we were doing it, and I had to be quite insistent. The stairs are getting carpet. Because my fear of slipping on stairs is thanks to that goddamn public information.
Why not just embrace that and just have the stairs as a slide down to the bottom?
Yeah.
I mean, getting back up might be troubling, but it'd be fun coming down.
Like the kind of thing you wish you had. You'd see it in American film where a kid had a slide or a fireman's pole in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And it'd be the most incredible thing you'd ever seen in your entire life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, We shall see you in 7 days' time, Earthlit. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, it's goodbye from Chloe, and it's goodbye from Steve and Dave. And until next time, splendid Verthrig, Earthlets.
See you next week.
Get 2000 AD now. Get to